What's the difference between this live and this conversation versus thousands of others that you will see on this topic, right? Let's just make sure we set the parameters to make us understand what the difference is, because you need to know from the gate that there's a major difference between the conversation that I'm having with you and the thousands of other conversations that are being had by civil rights leaders, by media sources, whether it's CNN or MSNBC or Fox or some of our leading vocal civil rights leaders or pastors and other black platforms and podcasts. There is a major difference between the conversation that I'm having with you versus the thousands of other conversations that you're going to hear on this subject. You know what that difference is? Is that every single one of them are speculating. The thousands of conversations, right, that you're going to hear about this particular situation, police involved shooting, deadly shootings, they are speculating, right? When it comes down to what the solution is, they're speculating, right? Well, we're not speculating, right? Because not only did we change the law on police accountability, lead the whole nation in police accountability, we just got the first officer convicted of murder based upon the change of law that was brought forth in Washington state. So not only did we change the law that we changed is effective. So I'm talking to you about something, right, that I know, that I've done. I'm not guessing my way through it. I'm not speculating my way through it. I've done it. And everybody else is speculating. And two, they have the receipts of having done it. Now, the question is what everybody is saying, what do we do? What do we do about this situation? Can anything be done? Of course something could be done. Of course something could be done because I done it, right? But it's the how it was done that is the problem, right? How it was done. Somebody say, well, why would how it was done be the problem? Because when my brother Shay Taylor was killed in 2016 and I left LA to come to Seattle to address this particular problem, right? I felt I had the genius and the wherewithal and the information on how I should move. I had moved in different areas of my life before. Some of you know my story. And I felt I had the genius to deal with what was required to win a situation that we've been getting devastated and losing all the time, right? And when I came here to Seattle and started sharing some of the things that I felt needed to be done, it was the black community in Seattle that did not support me. As a matter of fact, they shunned me because all they thought about was this guy has a checkered past. He comes from the streets and what could he know? Right? And it wasn't that I did not know because now listen, because we're talking about what could be done, right? But I still have to set the foundation so that you can understand what is going on, what's going on now, what was going on then, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm setting the groundwork so that you can have an understanding. So I did not get the support, and so I didn't worry about the support because I understand my own people, right? But can I tell you one of the things that I tried to share with our people when I first started police accountability in 2016? One of the things that I shared with our people is this. I said, I realized why we have not been successful in dealing with police accountability. Bring your whole mind, right? This is not entertainment. This is black genius, right? That have already done what most people are just going to be talking about. And I want you to understand how I was able to do that, right? So I was explaining as I was thinking about this situation, I seen the issue of why we keep losing. And the main issue is that we are a very reactive people. If someone gets killed in our communities, there's an immediate reaction, and that reaction stems from a chronic pain, that chronic hurt of abuse within this country. And so, of course, there's a reaction from that pain and from that injustice that we have faced in this country, right? And that is a normal feeling, right? But it's not going to be the thing that's going to help us deal with this system. So I needed to find out a way how to deal with this system, because the system wasn't responding to our pain. The system was not responding to that you hurt us and that you're unfair, right? The system didn't respond to that because we've been hurting for 400 years. We've been treated unfair for 400 years. Our voices have been crying for 400 years, yelling out, crying out, marching, rallies for 400 years. And nothing has shifted and nothing has changed. So how is it and what is it that I did that was able to change that situation, right? Well, first thing I said is that I understand that us being reactionary when it comes to this system, that's a problematic thing, right? Because sometimes we'll react and we'll burn up some things and we'll, tear a city down or whatever because we're hurt. That chronic pain, right? From what has been going on to us, and we want to react. We're angry, right? But then I realized something, that when that happens, we lose the narrative, right? We lose the narrative. So now the media is not talking about what the officer did. Now the media is talking about what the community is doing. And this is a conversation I'm trying to have with black people, black organizations in Seattle, but they weren't trying to hear me. And I'm telling them we cannot afford to be reactive anymore because we keep losing the narrative. And in politics, in a political system, it is the narrative that you can never lose. And we always lose it. We always lose it because we become extremely reactionary because of our pain, right? And so what the system does is it knows us. It knows that we react to our pain. So what the system does is it sits back, and what they say, okay, well, they're going to be angry. They might rally, they might march, they might tear some things up or whatever. It'll happen about 2-3 weeks, and then things will go back to normal. And then things do go back to normal, right? Until another shooting happens. And then the same thing happens. It's this just circle of that continues to happen. But I said I'm going to break that circle because I am not going to be reactionary. I'm going to be responsive. Somebody said, well, what do you mean by that? Well, when I came up here, I talked to the chief of police, the family and we talked to the chief of police, right? When I came back up here after my brother was killed, I came up here like a day later. And I did something on purpose. Because I know the system are experts, right, of us reacting out of our trauma. They're experts. They know exactly what's going to happen. So I did something different. I told the chief of police, her name was Kathleen O'Toole at the time, I says, you know what? I know I can't bring my little brother back, but I am still willing to work with you, right, so that we can offset the incidences of violence in the community. I'm still willing to work with you. And that was a change. Somebody said, well, how did that change things? Because she was not prepared for my response. She was only prepared for my reaction. So when I gave her a response, I made her play by my terms. So somebody's wondering, well, how? Well, now she has to engage me. A lot of time when shootings happen, the law enforcement, they just be responding to the community's violence once a shooting has happened, right? And so that's what they're focused on, right? But when I told her, I'm still willing to work with you so that we can prevent the incidence of violence in the community, that made her engage me on my terms, right? Because now, if she did not engage me on my terms, then people from her community are going to put pressure on her and say, you just killed this man's brother. And this man just told you he's willing to work with you to prevent the incidences of violence in the community. They would have wore her out. So now I got her, right, operating and having to continue to deal with the issue of this police shooting. She ain't dealing with the issues of the community going crazy anymore. She's not dealing with the issues of the violence in the community when a shooting happens. No, 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 no. The pressure is stayed upon law enforcement. The pressure is stayed focused upon what the behavior of law enforcement have done. And the way that I did it was with a monotone. There was no anger added to it because I was cognitive of the fact that you guys are experts on our reactions. You're experts on our pain. You know exactly how we're going to react. You know what you've been able to do, and you know the pain inside of us makes us react to you, and you are an expert at our reaction, but you're not an expert at our responses. You're not an expert at our responses. And so from that point, I never relinquished responding. I always responded. I never reacted. Never. Never. In any incident, whenever I was dealing with them, it was never a reaction because remember, I'm cognitive of where their strengths are. Right? Okay. So not only that, I created a community meeting with my organization called Not This Time. Right? And what I did is I said that there are some things in the law that the community and the state really don't know about, right? At the time, Washington State had the worst law on policing in the whole nation. But nobody knew about it. My community didn't know about it. No other community knew about it. So what I devised a plan to do was to educate the community on what the law was. So I gave these community meetings. And what I did is I brought politicians, I brought law enforcement, I brought everybody to the table, right? I brought everybody to the table. And what the objective was to educate the community on what the law says, right? And at the same time, bring community and law enforcement engagement. Now, the key was, right, is I understand the community is angry. So when I would bring one of these top politicians or law enforcement or the chief of police or whatever, when I would bring them to the community, I would set the standard, right? Now remember, I'm keeping the response and not the reaction, right, from the gate. So what I'm telling everybody, the hundreds of people in the community and whoever the guest is, from the gate, I tell everybody, listen, these are professionals that we have here today. They could take the tough questions. So ask the tough questions. But if anybody in here disrespects one of my guests, we're going to escort you out of here. Right? I'm setting the tone. Right? I'm setting the tone. Because what am I setting the tone for? A continual engagement. Right? Not for them to gaff us off like they always do because of the violence. No, this is going to be a continual engagement of accountability for you. We're going to keep the pressure on you. And it's important that the community understands how that is done in a political setting, which is why I set the standard, the high bar by saying, community, we are not animals. We're here to lead. Right? And let me show you what leadership looks like, which is why I set a high precedent of accountability and respect. These are professionals. They can take the tough questions. But if you disrespect any one of the guests that come, we're going to escort you out of here. Right? So now that let the system understand they're dealing with somebody that is a professional. Right? They're dealing with somebody that has character. Right? And it makes them continue to engage. So they were continuing to engage because I had them hemmed up. They couldn't do nothing but engage. Because every way that I was operating was making them more and more accountable to me. Do you understand? We're talking about building, how you work in systems, right? How I always say this in my classes. If you are a leader, and you have not learned to lead or love beyond your pain, you shouldn't be a leader. Because dealing with our people and the trauma that we have from that pain, that chronic trauma, our people can cause us a lot of pain. And if you're not equipped to understand why our people are having the pain, you're going to get offended and you're not qualified to lead, right? Because the system is expecting for us just to eat each other from the inside out, right? So when we're eating each other from the inside out, they escaping every single time. And I was cognitive of the fact not to allow that to happen because I wanted to keep the pressure on the system because of their behavior. I did not want them to switch it on me and then say it's our behavior. Do you understand? I didn't want them to switch it on me. And then the focus was our behavior. No, I kept all the focus, all the pressure on their behavior, and it was important that I responded accordingly. Do you understand? I'm teaching you what I tried to tell the black community in Seattle when I came that they didn't want to hear and they didn't want to listen to me, right? Because all they wanted to do was to say, why do you keep doing this to us? You guys are wrong. You keep killing us. And I tried to explain to them, this America is an empire that, like any other empire that has existed before it, that have conquered lands and people. You keep going to them as a victim, asking them why they keep victimizing you. And I'm telling you, as an empire, they have got into the position that they are in by not only victimizing you, but every other place that they have conquered, right? So you don't have the mindset nor the temperament to deal with this country because you keep dealing with them, right? As an individual that have been conquered. And they expect for you to deal with them like a victim that has been conquered. They only respect power, right? They only respect what is called building power. I'm going to break that down to you, right? Because these are some of the things that I utilize to defeat them, right? Building power. What is that? Because this is an empire that got into the position that they are in by conquering lands and people, like any other empire that's ever existed in the world, they have conquered lands and people. That is what empires do. And you are going before them like a subject, like an individual that has been conquered, crying, saying, why do you keep doing this to us? They got into the position doing it to you. That's not the conversation. You have to first recognize what you're dealing with and recognize as an empire what only empires respect, right? And you got to have the mindset to know how to operate as a conqueror yourself. But you don't got the mindset because all your mindset is a victim. And everything you do is with victimhood, right? You are operating to an empire like an empire feels you should, right? You are a conquered subject and you're supposed to act like a victim to us. That's something that we're quite used to, right? But I did not act like a victim. I act like a conqueror and I built power. So how did I build power? Okay, what I did is I went to every community, right? The Native community, the Latino community, the Asian Pacific Island community, the white community. I went to every single community because every single community had an incident of police shooting, just like my family had an incident of police shooting, right? And what I did is I took families from those communities and I put their voices at the forefront so that the white families were saying the same thing we were saying. The natives family was saying the same thing the white families were saying, right? And then the Latino family was saying the same thing that the native family was saying. And all these communities were saying the same thing. And so I was letting them know this is not a black problem, right? You don't escape this problem because this is an American problem. See, let me show you. And so when the white family spoke and the native family spoke and the Asian Pacific Islander family spoke and all these communities really realized, well, wait a minute, he's telling the truth. So what happened? That connected every single community together. But the most powerful thing happened is this. The white people were not coming to fight for black people. The Asians weren't coming to fight for black people. The Latinos weren't coming to fight for black people. Every community was coming to fight for their own interests. I had to show them, you don't escape this problem. Look, here it is. Here's this family that looks like you, that operates like you, and they didn't escape it. You don't escape it. And I had to broaden the coalition out and broaden the mindset of black people out and to allow them to understand this is an American problem. And so the tent had to become bigger instead of just black people where our voices have been marginalized. Do you understand? The tent had to be broadened out. Because when I first started, black people were like, we don't want any white allies. We don't want that allies. And I was trying to explain to them, you're thinking like a victim. But they couldn't hear me. They couldn't hear me. Right? And it took a long time for them to get on board when they start seeing things start working. But in the beginning, they were saying, we don't want this, we don't want that. And I was like, you just want to stay marginalized. And I just kept it pushing. Right? And I had to make the tent big. I don't care who you love. I don't care what religion you come from. All I care about is your care for equality, social justice. And if that is you, please come and be a part. Right? What I used to get is a lot of people coming saying, what do you want me to do? And I would say, listen, I don't micromanage anyone's genius. When you're coming to me asking me, what do you want me to do? I'm looking back at you saying, listen, I don't know what your expertise is, but whatever your expertise is, you bring that expertise to the table. I don't want to place you somewhere that you don't have any experience in or expertise. So when you come to me saying, what do you want me to do? I'm going to push that right back on you. What do you do? And whatever you do, you bring that genius to the table. You bring that to the table. And then all of us are exercising in what we do well. That's called building power. So now when we go before law enforcement, we're not going crying like the victim does. We're not going over there saying, why do you keep doing this to us? No, we're going over there demanding what you are going to do. Because maybe you could have just beat black people by themselves. Maybe you could have just beat Mexican people and Latinos by themselves. Maybe you could have just beat the Asian Pacific Islanders by themselves. But I've come because I've built power before the empire. And I'm telling the empire, but you can't beat all of us. But you can't beat all of us. And now that I've built power, you got to respect me and respect my word. And this is what we want you to do. We're not asking you. We are telling you what we want you to do. Right? Now, one of the other things, I'm just putting it out there, right? When I first came, I didn't know nothing about politics. Nothing. So you got to have intellectual curiosity and you got to have a great learning curve, right? But I did know I wanted to put people that could explain to me the law. So I got these attorneys, Leslie Cushman, Lisa Dugard, Terry Rogers Kemp, and I had them sit me down and we were there for a while, right? Months, and educate me about how this thing works. Now, why they were educating me, I'm asking them the tough questions with my mind, with my mentality, right? With the genius that I have. I'm probing them and asking them all these questions, right? Because I want this thing nailed down. So true enough, they might say this, they might say that. Then I say, well, what about this? What about this, right? So I'm trying to hammer everything out. So I'm putting the right people around me so that I can understand myself, so that I can know how I want to maneuver. Do you understand? So that's what I did. So once I understood myself, what the real issue was, that's why I wanted to start having the community meeting so that I can convey that to the community and to the state of Washington. Because once we start explaining to the community, right, and the broader community about our law, everybody was in shock because everybody was saying we didn't know that was in the law. We didn't know. Well, everybody was in shock, right? So what I'm saying all that, and there's so much more, you guys. I'm just giving you little pieces. I'm saying all that to say, here we have this sister, Sonya Massey, that have been killed. And you have everybody out there talking. Well, when my brother was killed and others were killed in Seattle and in Washington State, everybody was in an uproar and they were ready to do whatever. And guess what? They were ready to do whatever, but they were not prepared for the war of attrition. Because what happens is you might get people through their emotions, right? Or their anger. I'm going to do something. Let's do this. Let's do this. And what you find out is that everybody begins to fall off because life continues to happen, right? And everybody goes back into their life, right? And that anger and that passion, it subsides. And the system continues to win because of the war of attrition, right? And so right now, I don't have a feeling about all the people with their excitement to do something, because I know it takes a particular kind of individual, right, that have the ability to stick to it, right? And a lot in our communities, we stick to entertainment. That's something that we do stick to, entertainment. And entertainment has its place, but we elevate that more than anything. We elevate that more than anything. We're more committed to that than anything. We will stick to it. But when it comes down to something like this, we will talk. We will show our pain, our frustration. We will go on the streets. We will do all kind of stuff. But oh, that war of attrition will begin to wear us down, right? And you will lose the flame and you will lose the fire, right? And everybody's talking about this, that, and the other. But they've never built a campaign. They've never dealt with the system, right? They don't have the temperament. I remember the first march and rally that I gave. There was so many people there for my little brother, Shay Taylor. There were a lot of us. And the first thing that I said is I want you all to listen up. I want all you to listen up. And I said this: if you are an individual that if someone calls you the N-word, right, you're going to lose it. You're not qualified to stand with me in this work that needs to be done. We can't afford just anybody randomly throwing that out there, and then that alone destroys everything we're trying to build. You don't have the temperament for the fight, right? It's the enemy's job to understand what your Achilles heel is. It is the enemy's job to understand what your weaknesses are, because my father would say if the devil was fair, he wouldn't be the devil. It is his job to attack you, right, where you haven't developed. And I told him, if that's who you are, you could only hurt us. You couldn't help us. Because you have to expect them to do whatever they're going to do to dismantle whatever you're trying to do. There's a history in this country with COINTELPRO. Look what they did to the Nation of Islam. Look what they did to the Black Panthers, and every black movement that ever tried to arise, they neutralized it. Right? They neutralized it. And so one of the things that I was cognitive of all the time is that the way they neutralize a lot of those our organizations and civil rights movements and things, they just neutralized it. Well, one of the reasons was some of the organizations were trying to operate in secrecy. But this country are masters in espionage and cracking your secrets. They say 40% of the nation was confidential informants at COINTELPRO, right? From the inside out. Right? So what I said, when I give my meetings, they won't be secret. They'll be for all the public. They'll be transparent. Everybody is welcome. Everybody come. Right? And then when I would speak, I would say openly what I'm going to do before we do it. There was nothing to be able to break. There was nothing to try to find out, because I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I'm going to tell you ahead of time what we're going to do. Right? And I'm going to open it up that if you want to send your people, they are welcome to come. I don't care. That's not going to stop the trajectory of what's going on here. Do you understand? So some of that was because of trying to be secret, right? I ain't got to be secret, right? This is exactly what we're going to do. This is how we're going to operate, just like I'm sharing with you some of the fundamentals of how I operated to get the law changed and lead this country in police accountability, right? I don't have to, that's not secret. It doesn't matter what they think. Oh, they're going to recalibrate. The system will always try to recalibrate to try to shut something down, right? But I believe when it's time. I believe when God or fate, whatever you want to call it, I have my own perspective, right? When he has set the time in the earth for things to happen and things to change, then you can just simply write off the timing, right? I would always say you could have the most brilliant people in the room, but if it hasn't been sanctioned for it to happen, it won't happen. And then I would say to the community meetings that I would have, then you could have insignificant people in the room like myself. But if God himself has said this is the time, he will use insignificant people like myself to get it done. Do you understand? I felt I wanted to come before you and share some of the things that are the problem areas for us. I would love to organize our people around the country, but they just won't listen. I have all the receipts. No one has done what I've done. I've told you a little bit of how I operated intellectually to deal with a system that have outplayed us at every turn, and how I outplayed them at every turn to this day, right? But I have a checkered past. I come from the streets. I was out there hustling. I was out there trying to make it happen, right? Of course, I haven't been in the streets for many, many, years now. I've been married 26 years and, my life has changed. But there's something, I always say this, and I've said this often, right? Especially for people that I talk to that's coming out of prison and all that. I always say you have to be careful, because if someone can define you, they can defeat you, right? And I often say to tell your story before your enemy does, right? Because all they wanted to do was bring up that he used to be in the streets and he was this and he did fed time and all that. But I have been telling the story over 20 years, right? They could never define me, because no matter what you were saying, my life before you were there. The people were seeing something different. This man is married. He's this, that, and the other. And do you understand what I'm saying? So there's just so many things that go along with having to deal with how the system is going to come at you. You have to have the mindset. But if you are in victim mode, right, you won't let me teach you, right? You won't let me teach you, because so many people think they got the answers already. From the beginning of the conversation, I said the difference between this conversation and the thousands that you will hear out there is that they're guessing. We're not guessing over here, because we've done it. And I've given you some of the things of how we done it. If my people would just listen and allow me to teach them how to move, if they would, we could shake the world up, not just the country. We could shake the world up, right? But you have to value the information. Even the Bible says, what did Jesus say? If you don't believe me, believe the works, right? And I often say, well, just believe the works. If you don't believe me. I remember when I was one of these big old meetings with union police presidents and all these high-powered, police people, right? And they were like, Andre, you're a mystery to us. Like, they didn't know how to deal with me, right? They didn't know if I was trying to do something slick, and I would simply say to them, if you don't understand, just believe the work. How have I engaged you? How have I dealt with you? You got to believe the work, right? Because so many people can do some talking, but believe the work, believe the receipts. And that's all I can give you. And that's all I'm giving my people today, right? Once we did police accountability, once we got the law changed, right? I wasn't on no black platforms. I always talk about like the Breakfast Club or something, and I'm not picking with them, but I'm saying the Breakfast Club didn't say, Dre, will you come over here and talk to us about what you were able to achieve? And no, but guess who came? White folks platforms. Fox News. I was on Hannity several times. The New Yorker, top magazine in the world. They interviewed me, and all these other white platforms, they came because they appreciated the information. Well, there's a disconnect within our people, because we'll be around the corner waiting for a new mixtape or a new album, or, And I know now it's digital, but I'm just making, an example how when it comes to entertainment, we'll fill up an arena, right? But when it comes to something that has some empowerment to it, that's going to stretch you, right here, where you got to be stretched here, is something that you don't want to engage with because it doesn't hold the same value, right? And I understand that. But if you're trying to further us as a people dealing with this system, you're going to have to bring some genius to the situation. Entertainment means nothing. They'll let a few of us get some money. They print the money, right? So they got you so focused on the bag, they'll give you some of the bag as long as they can keep control. They print the money, man, right? They ain't going to teach you how to conquer them, right? And when I talk about conquer, I remember the Seattle Times did an interview on me, and when I first came to Seattle, we did a press conference with the NAACP, and I was like, I come to go to war. And so in the interview, the guy that was doing the interview, I forget his name, David Weeknick or something like that, he said he came to go to war, but it wasn't like we thought. He brought people together. He built this, he built this. So when I say conquer them, it's not like when they think about it. It's not like, oh, we're going to be violent, we're going to kill people. Oh, no. Who owns the future is the one who owns the information and the knowledge, right? I often say that white supremacy, it didn't happen with just violence. It happened with brilliance. Why would they stop it if they continue to control the world with white supremacy? Why would they stop it, right? The only way it will stop is when new information is entered into the equation that makes it null and void anymore, right? And that's all I did, was brought new information into the equation, right, that conquered what they have been conquering for so long, right? That's what I did. I brought new information into the equation. And so the white supremacy wasn't conquering when it came down to the new information that was brought into the equation. Do you understand? So I'm just saying, right? My organization is called Not This Time, but my newer part of the organization is called The Remnant, right? And I go around the country and I give conferences and reach out to a select few of us, right? This is not entertainment. This is education of power to teach you how to be a conqueror in every area of your life. And I know the things that are within us that need to be dealt with. Right? And I try to use my own life as an example by saying, listen, I don't care what background you come from. I don't care what you've done, what mistakes that you have made. My life is an example that the Most High could use you right where you're at. And he could elevate you to conquer anything in your life. Right? That's my purpose. Right? So, oh no, the information was new to them. I've been operating the information. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm not going to be on here long, and you guys share this if you want. If you don't, it is what it is. I'm only here for the remnant, like I said. But I wanted to give you guys some little nuggets, right? So that you could see, man, I need to have some information, right? I need to be able to operate a little different, right? I need to understand what Dre is saying, and that, yes, that's who we are. And I could see why we haven't won. I broke that down to you. Right? I broke it down to you so that you could see where the deficiencies is dealing with this empire, right? In the hopes of spurring you to brilliance and knowledge. That's my hopes, right? Because they're still pushing the idea of the bag. They want you. I'm not saying that you don't have no money. Yeah, you get some money and all that kind of stuff, but that don't make you no conqueror. I'm a conqueror. Everywhere I've gone, everything that I've done, that I continue to do to this day, is conquering every area of my life, right? And that's what I want to teach our people how to be, is a conqueror. And like I said before I leave, the difference with this conversation is I have the receipts. Everybody else is out there guessing. There'll be people in here right now that still won't receive what I'm saying, even though all the evidence and all the receipt is there. That's how messed up we are, a lot of us, right? But everybody is not going to be like that. Some people going to get it. When Jesus had came, or Yahweh Shai, we call him, his real name, when he came, he only came and got 12 people. I don't know how many he tried to go reach, but he only came and got 12. And this is why I always say I'm only here for the remnant. right? I could take a handful. Well, let me just say, I used to always say, if you give me 5,000 that I can teach and train, right? If I could teach and train them and give me 3 years with them, our people would conquer the world easily. Me, one person, I conquered this whole state. From the governor on down. The receipts are there. You can go look at it. Everybody in this state came underneath my tutelage to ask me how to operate, right? Even when the governor over here was running for president one time, he was using the work that was done, that we done here. And when I said something to him about it one time when we went up there to meet with him, he was like, Andre, I apologize, but as the governor, you take credit for what goes on in your state. I was like, I'm not tripping. I understand, right? But the governor, the police chief, the senators, the sheriff, everybody was respectful in listening and taking heed to my leadership. But my own people don't see the value, right? Here, white people that run the world, right, taking heed to my leadership, and my own people keep talking about, well, he used to be this, and he used to was the prison, and this, that, and the other. You see the disconnect there? I love you, my people. And for the remnant, I'll see you tonight at 7 in class. If you're interested in joining one of my classes, my YouTube class, andreltaylor, all you got to pick is join and become a member of the classes, the YouTube live classes that we have every Monday and every Friday at 7 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time. We have classes on Wednesdays on my IG at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we have classes on my OnlyFans, Master Teacher Andre Taylor, on my OnlyFans page on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come and join. Come get the information. Let me help you. Let me empower you. Right? Let me help you conquer in every area of your life. I'm a living witness and a living testament that the Most High is capable of allowing us to conquer everything in our life and everything outside of our life. All right? Be well. All praises to the Most High. I'm out.